Every now and then we get a chance to just follow up with someone who's found us at the RV Small Talk podcast. And today we have Sebastian online, and he's going to tell us kind of his pathway to RVing and even more. There's a bigger story there than just RVing. So we're going to welcome one of our listeners on today. This is Sebastian, and we're going to get his story. PJ, you ready for this?
I'm ready for anybody who goes from restaurant owner to RV tech.
Yeah.
I think that is so cool. So I'm excited. Yes, I'm ready.
Very good. All right, everybody, we are the RV Small Talk podcast team. We talk about lightweight trailers, truck campers, the people, places, and adventures that go right along with them. We are your hosts from Princess Craft RV, and I'm Clint.
I'm PJ.
And I put too much creamer in my coffee.
And yet, you did. You have coffee today?
That's weird. It actually looks like kind of discolored milk.
It looks like milk.
Yeah, it's milk coffee.
It's okay.
Good luck to me later in about 3 hours.
Okay, so we have Sebastian online. Welcome to the podcast, Sebastian. So glad to finally actually hear your voice. I've kind of had a voice in my head from your social media posts.
It's yeah, it's funny. You, I remember starting to see you comment on everything and hang out with us on Facebook
and showing the things he was cooking.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Yeah. And so I feel like we've all known you for years, but this is the first time I've ever actually heard your voice. So welcome.
Well, I am so happy to be here, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show. Been following you guys for the past 3 years. Love the show. I've learned a lot from your broadcasts, and honestly, it really helped me with trying to get myself familiar with this whole industry and the RV lifestyle. So no, thank you for providing such great content.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Cool. And we're done. Just kidding.
and all this time, guys, we thought we were just being silly and recording it, and it actually maybe made a little bit of a difference. So, Sebastian, I need to know how to say your last name.
Oveysi.
Oveysi.
Ooh, I had it
you
right.
were saying it right.
Yeah.
Oveysi.
Yeah.
We had a whole
So
discussion.
Just think of the word obey, but replace the B with V. So Oveysi, and add an S and an I in the end.
Okay.
Oveysi.
That is way too much thinking for me.
If we go to the beginning, Sebastian, way back. No, maybe not so. Not
in the beginning.
Not too way back, but way back. Give me your family background, because I think you, if I remember correctly, you are first or second generation to the U.S. Is that correct?
Yes, I am I'm actually first generation to the U.S. Okay, so my parents, they left Iran. Mm-hmm. This is where I'm from. My family were Iranian. My dad. Sorry, I'm trying to kind of go back in time in a proper timing, so I don't skip anything. But yeah, so my dad was a deputy lieutenant for the Iranian Air Force during the Shah.
Oh, wow!
And for those of you guys who are familiar with the Iranian history, you know the Iranian government was one of the U.S.'s biggest allies up until 1979.
Correct. Especially
in that region. Mm-hmm. Very westernized country, and unfortunately, we had the extremism that came and swept through the country. And there was a Islamic revolution overnight, and anybody that was part of the previous regime for the Shah of Iran were either executed or put in jail. And my dad was one of those individuals that was arrested. He was actually scheduled for execution, and luckily he was able to escape from a prison hospital with another inmate, and got the family overnight, and we left everything behind, went to Turkey and I was probably about 8 or 9 years old at the time. We escaped Turkey, and
wow.
And we were there for a few years and came here, and then the U.S. Embassy in Turkey took my family's case. We applied for asylum visas, got approved, went through the whole screening while we were in Turkey. And then once everything got approved, we were the U.S. Government took us in with open arms, and we built a home here. So now this is home.
Okay, and where in the U.S.? I want to say it's northeast. Is that correct?
Yes. So my family, we were actually sponsored by a church in Virginia.
Okay.
So that church, they brought us to a small city outside of DC. It's probably about 7 or 8 miles outside of Washington, DC, in the Northern Virginia suburbs. It's known as Annandale.
Okay.
Annandale, Virginia. That's where we were for the first several years. And, you know, so I have 2 older brothers and I have a younger sister. And when we first got here, my oldest brother was working at a butcher cutting meat at night and was also going to school during the daytime. My dad was, he was delivering donuts for Dunkin' Donut, working graveyard shifts.
Right.
Okay. Wow. Your dad goes from being a officer to delivering donuts.
You gotta do what you gotta do, Mom.
And I know that. It's just what a story. I mean,
already.
I can't even imagine what it would be like to have your father scheduled for execution and he's able to escape, run away, and come to the U.S. I mean, I guess you get here with nothing. You're willing to do anything and take any job.
When everything is taken away from you and you are down on your knees crawling, you'll be very surprised what you'll be willing to do just to survive.
Sure.
So, and I think people tend to forget the strength we all have within ourselves when it really boils down to the time that you need to step up and do what you need to do. And I think that's really inspirational. For me, that's one of the most inspiring things from my father is the fact that he was able to sit on his pride to take care of his family. It's not an easy thing to be a deputy lieutenant for a government army that was one of the strongest economies in that region for so many years. To go from that to delivering donuts, I think it takes a man to sit on their pride to save their family. It takes a man to do that. And I think for me, my dad is my hero. So he brought us here, saved our lives. And that's something that I think it can never be repaid.
Yeah. Wow.
That's an amazing story. I feel the same way. And I know everyone out there will too. That gives you enough inspiration to do whatever it is you want to do, right?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And we're blessed. I mean, a country took us in with open arms. And I think nowadays, especially with all the commotion that we got going on with the political division, with how divided this country or the media makes it out to be. I think the one thing that people tend to forget, and I travel all over the country. I've been blessed enough to do that for the past couple of years. Finally, after 20 years of being in the restaurant business. And I've actually seen firsthand, we're not as divided as what the media makes us to be. And this country is a very welcoming country. And I think people, they tend to focus on things that are not necessarily accurate. I can't imagine living anywhere else. And we're very lucky. This country took us in, and I'm very, very grateful. And I always tell my wife, by the way, who's American country girl from Culpeper County, Virginia. And her and I always talk about the differences of living abroad and living here. Right. And we're just very lucky, very fortunate. I'm very, 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 my whole family feel very lucky.
Sure.
Well, I agree. And I know that we try to stay lighthearted and fun here, but your story, that's a big piece of your story. So thanks for sharing that.
You.
So how did you get into the restaurant business?
That's where I was going next, because the first things he was posting were some of his recipes that was coming up with specifically for traveling, for camping. Those were the first things I saw him sharing with us. So tell us about your journey to the culinary arts, and it involves your family as well.
Correct. Yeah. So my dad, my oldest brother, as I mentioned earlier, and I have 2 older brother and younger sister. My 2 older brothers, they were going to school and they were also working. But at the time, my oldest brother, Michael, and my dad were able to secure a job at a Persian restaurant in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC, one of the DC suburbs, as waiters and busboys. And the owner of the restaurant was this really elderly man, and he wanted to get out of it. He wanted to sell the restaurant. And after about a few years, my dad working for him, they came to agreement to sell my dad and my brother the restaurant, and he was just gonna retire. And they worked it out. After 2-3 years, we bought it. It was a very small restaurant, probably about 8 or 9 tables. At the time, this was like in the early 90s. There weren't that many Middle Eastern restaurants in the area where we are in Northern Virginia. So we were one of the first Persian restaurants that opened in Arlington, actually, in Arlington, Virginia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that area or not, but we opened up. We had that restaurant for 15 years, and I grew up in that restaurant. Every day after school, I would go there and I would help out. I would wash dishes, clean tables, and then I would sit at that first booth by the kitchen and do my homework before coming home with my parents. I mean, that was our life. I grew up in that restaurant for many, many, many years.
Sebastian, that reminds me a lot of, I grew up at Princess Craft. Like after school, I would go into a camper and do my homework and scrape putty off the floor and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, so you know what it's like to grow up in a family business.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And you do a little bit of everything. I mean, I did everything. Everybody in my family did a little bit of everything.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's how I grew up in it. And I just fell in love with cooking and the restaurant business. And long story short, when I finally turned adult, I decided that I was going to pursue my own thing. I didn't think that I was going to be able to capitalize on the Persian cuisine. Because I wanted to do something that a little bit more trendy, a little bit more upscale, edgy, and I just didn't think I could do that with kebabs. So I don't know.
Kebabs is just fun to say.
Yeah, I know. It's the thing is, at the time, especially during the early '90s, I think I think food was just starting to become a huge thing.
That's true.
Right.
And for me, I was looking around me, and all the high-end restaurants I would see would be French or Italian. And so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I can't. There's nothing I can do with it. Who wants to have a fancy kebab? I mean, it never clicked to me that look, I can actually do something with this.
Okay. Right.
Then I went to. So I finally, when I turned 18, 18, 19, I moved to New York City. I got a job as a cook for an Italian restaurant in Manhattan, in Upper West Side of Manhattan. I was there for a very long time. I worked my way up to the head chef to executive chef.
Oh man, yeah, education then. That's
oh my
right
God.
over the
Italian food? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and not just Italian food. It's actually Italian and French. So it was a great experience.
The skills there.
So you have olive oil and butter.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was a really good experience. I mean, I learned a lot. And I learned about wines. I learned about European cuisine. Learned a lot of different techniques. I think for me, I think it was better than going to culinary school. And I've gone through some, advanced training through culinary schools for certification programs, but honestly, none of them come anywhere close to the experience that I got working in Maria Pia,
the hands-on
in New York City.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I got bored with Maria Pia in New York City, very randomly, very spontaneously. I was like, you know what? I'm moving down to South Beach, Miami. Moved down there when I was in my 22, 23. I was there for about 4.5, 5 years before I decided to go home. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I was in Miami. And in Miami, I was working for another Italian restaurant. But that was during my late 20s. And, I'm sure you guys could relate. When you're in your late 20s, you tend to party a lot. So it was being in Miami.
I don't know
was
what you're talking
hard.
about.
So, yeah, it was a little hard for me to kind of really capitalize on everything I learned because I was young and partying a lot. And so finally I got tired of doing all that and decided that, you know what, I'm moving back home. And that's when I got involved with the family and we opened up the restaurant we have now. And this was back in the early 2000s. And so our previous restaurant, the restaurant I was telling you guys about that I grew up in, my family, we actually closed that in 2005.
Okay.
We closed it and my dad was going to retire. He was done with it. At that point, I had my own thing going between New York and Miami. I had a food truck that I was working with. And this was a time where food trucks were starting to become a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, DC went from having like 10 food trucks to 300 food trucks within 2 years. It was insane. It was like a storm that just came through the city. But so then I I call after I was done with Miami. I called my dad and I said, "Hey, look, I got this really cool idea of doing a modern Persian restaurant. There's nothing out there. With all the experience that I've had with New York and Miami, I really think we can do something together." And that's really how the Amuse, our current restaurant, was born. So it's a collaboration of authentic Persian cuisine mixed with the modern, edgy Western cuisine.
I think this means we need to take a trip, PJ.
I'm hungry.
Yeah,
I know. How about
Absolutely.
if
We'd love
Sebastian
to
just
have you
comes
guys.
down here and cooks for us here?
No, I want to go there.
Okay. All right. Well,
I can tell you what, I'll split the difference. Both.
between here now, is this restaurant in Virginia or is it in New York?
DC, I think.
No, it's actually in Virginia,
okay.
Northern Virginia, right outside of
Okay.
Washington, D.C. It's in a town called McLean, which is not too far from the CIA building in Langley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're like literally, we're like a mile down the road from Langley, the CIA building.
So
in Langley.
can we put a link to the restaurant in the podcast notes so that people traveling
Absolutely.
can stop
Yes.
and try it out?
That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Cool.
You can even include my email address if somebody wants to reach out,
Heck
and I'd be
yes.
more than happy to meet the listeners. Anybody wants to meet or someone wants to come to the restaurant and try the food, I'll be more than happy to accommodate them.
Okay, so how did we go? All right, we
Next
jumped. Yeah, we jumped around. Now, how do we get from restaurant to RV tech?
Okay, well, you guys know COVID changed a lot.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know, right? Well, COVID really, I think, with all the pain and misery that COVID brought, I think on the flip side of that, COVID also just opened up opportunities for a lot of people that didn't even know they existed. And so for me, the RV, it came from all the fiasco we went through during COVID. So before COVID happened, I had my food truck, a catering business, and I was also running the restaurant. Well, I'm still running the restaurant, but so we're really busy, working 90 hours a week. The food truck, we were getting booked pretty much all the office complexes in DC, outside of DC, in Maryland. I mean, I was working 90 hours a week around the clock, and then COVID happened.
Right.
When COVID happened, our restaurant, we had to close on the dining room. We were not allowed to have any guests in our dining room. So it was just carry out, and they changed the law so we could sell like beer bottles or wine bottles and stuff like that, just so we can have some revenue coming in. But that also created an opportunity where I wasn't needed at the restaurant physically as much, because without the dining room, the kitchen could handle the carry-out business. So it gave me a lot of time. So spontaneously, I walked into a dealership, picked up a small 20-foot travel trailer, and
listened to a podcast.
The restaurant. Yeah, I started listening to a podcast. Yeah, I started listening to you guys. Were actually one of the first podcasts I've discovered, because there's so much. It has so many questions. I didn't know anything about these things. I've never used them. I had no idea how to even use a dump station, how to fill up the water tanks. I didn't know anything.
So why did you walk in an RV dealership and buy an RV if you didn't know anything about it? I mean,
because I'm spontaneous, and that's what I do.
Okay.
Have you been listening? Yeah. Have you been listening to his life story?
I can relate to that. It's just I wanted to be sure.
No, I mean, when the purchase was definitely spontaneous. Because I did not plan for it at all. But I always knew that I wanted an RV. I just didn't know if I could ever buy one, how I could get one. And before I bought one, I honestly did not know you could actually finance one. So I was under the impression if you wanted the white one, you had to pay cash up front. And so I had a little bit of money saved up. So when I walked in the dealership, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna buy a used one. It's gonna have a bunch of miles on it. I'm gonna have to put a little bit of work on, and then I discovered, hey, wait, you can actually just finance these. So so I ended up financing it, and I bought what I really wanted. and this was right before the peak of the COVID, so the prices were actually really good. I got a really sweet deal on the first one. The first trailer I had was a Flagstaff E Pro, a 2020 model. And it was small because, given that it was my first RV, I didn't know anything about weight capacity. I just figured, it's something small. I can, my F-150 at the time could tow it no problem. And then the more familiar I got with RVs and I saw different designs, I realized, I want something a little bit bigger. I wanted something that, that has a separate bedroom from the living area. I want a walk-around bed. And I went in, and like about a year after, I went in and traded it in for what I have now. I have a 2022 RPOT 202. I think it's the first. It was the first models that came out. They're a little bigger than the original RPOT, if I'm not mistaken. And I was one of the first customers that actually bought the 202. So traded it in, and then
Ooh, I love the 202.
Every time I wanted to get something fixed on it, I would have to call Camping World, because this is the only dealership that we have near where I'm at in Northern Virginia, and trying to dealing with the Camping World, and I don't like talking negative about anybody, but with how demanding this industry is, and how short staffed Camping World and a lot of these dealerships are dealing with, it was hard to get a appointment in that was in like 2-3 months out. So I just got tired of it. I got tired of waiting, trying to get, there were some modifications I wanted to do on my own camper. There was stuff that I wanted to do. I got tired of waiting. So I started going on YouTube, looking at videos on how to do some of these things yourself. And then I discovered, wait a minute. Yeah. And then I discovered, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't that complicated. This isn't that hard. I can actually do this. So
were you, did you consider yourself handy? Did you consider yourself handy and mechanically inclined before you started tinkering on your RV?
Not at all.
Interesting.
I don't even remember the last time I grabbed a pair of pliers before this.
Oh, wow. Wow, this is like a metamorphosis. He was cooking beautiful food, and now he's a beautiful mobile tech RV butterfly.
Yes,
you were just a caterpillar.
And not only that, thank you. I like the butterfly part. I'm just kidding. But but honestly though, I consider myself a very spontaneous person. Okay, like I like to make plans. I like to go accordingly. And my wife she's a master of planning. Okay, she likes to have everything in order, everything planned out, scheduled. I'm the type of person, I believe life is too short to be planning everything out. Okay. I think there should be a little bit of a spontaneism in anything that you do. And I think that you can see that in everything that I've ever done in my life, whether it was the restaurant business, the RV business. At one point I even, got into music. I was DJing in my late teens. So I've always wanted to do different things, because I don't see myself just do one thing. Because I feel like life would be too boring just to do one thing. So this whole RV thing during COVID, I just couldn't sit at home and not do anything. And when I bought the camper, and I discovered there's actually a whole industry out there that people have not even tapped into, it was no brainer for me. So, I want to travel, and I got tired of working 90 hours. I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years, years. And then that's not counting the years that I grew up in my family's business. Professionally as a chef for 22 years. And when COVID hit, and I finally had some time to sit back and, because, before COVID, I was working all the time. So you can't see what you're missing until somebody just throws it at your face. And COVID was one of those things where,
you can't figure out what you actually enjoy.
Exactly. And the thing is, and COVID really showed that there's a freedom out there and that I didn't know about. There's a whole life out there that I didn't know about. There is a life where you can go and go see places, and that doesn't involve working 90 hours in an expedition line in the kitchen. And my dad, my parents worked really, really hard when they got here. And my dad worked till about he was 67 years old. every day for 30 years. And I love him. I respect him. I have nothing but the love for him, but I refuse to work like that. That's to me, that's not a life. And I appreciate everything he has done for us, but I refuse to be 65, 67 years old and working like that. I just don't want to do that. And this was my way out.
Okay.
Well, I can tell that for those of you that are listening, you can tell we're having some audio fade in and out. You can hear some background noises because, Sebastian, you are camping at Acadia right now.
Yes, I am.
Right? You are at a campsite enjoying yourself, right?
Yes, I am.
Well, I mean, maybe after the podcast
Yes.
is over, you'll be enjoying yourself. I mean, I don't know. That's my hope.
So,
But that's cool.
I really enjoy talking to you guys. So no, this is great.
Sebastian, you found your interest, you found an RV, you realized, hey, it's hard to get service and repairs and modifications done. So your next step towards your current adventure was what? You, like I said, first RV, hard to get maintenance and repairs and hard to get modifications. What was next in your thinking and direction?
So I was actually, in addition to following you guys, there's a couple other YouTubers that I follow as well. There's a couple other podcasts that I follow. And I don't remember which one it was that mentioned a training academy in Texas, with the National RV Training Academy in Athens, which is right outside of Dallas.
Oh, it was definitely us because we had him on our podcast. It was us.
It was us. We win.
It's probably. I think it was. Honestly, thinking back, I think it was you guys, and I think I'm trying to remember who it was that was on your show that I heard about the NRVTA. But
Terry Cooper.
And as soon as I heard,
it was Terry Cooper.
That's right. That's right. I remember even you and I spoke, and you wanted me to say hi to him, and I did. Yes, I remember that. You're right. Absolutely right. Yeah. So I discovered NRVTA through you guys, and I went online and did a little bit more research on it, and I saw nothing but good reviews. There were technicians that were talking about how they build a life, have gone through the school, and how they're happy, and they have the freedom about traveling around and still manage their life where they can pay the bills and still be still continue with their regular life while traveling and see the rest of the country. And that's something I wanted to do. And for me, it was no brainer. I knew that I wanted to get into this field, but I had a huge fear that, okay, so what am I going to do with the food truck? What am I going to do with the restaurant? And so I started doing this actually on the side on the weekends. And then it just took off. It took off
in
a
your
lot
spare
faster than I
time?
expected. Yes. Well, spare time. Again,
So did you go to school?
I went to NRVTA last February, probably about 2-3 months after I discovered the school. I called, I signed up for the fundamentals classes and then to become a certified inspector. And then I went in, so I went to school last February, February 2021, became a certified technician, went through the fundamentals, the inspectors, the refrigerators, air conditioners, and furnaces and all that good stuff. And I'm planning on going back this October to do the solar and generators and all that. So next year I can.
And can you, Sebastian, can you tell me what it was like being there in the classes? Like what I have no idea, is it?
I was having anxiety attacks like you wouldn't believe.
Oh no.
I have never been the type of person who could sit in a classroom and sit still and listen to a lecture for more than 5 minutes. I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm not joking when I tell you I'm diagnosed with ADHD. My wife always says if my head wasn't attached to my body, I would leave it everywhere. And given that I have ADHD, given that I have such a hard time like just sitting in one place for more than 5 minutes, the fact that I was able to go through the whole certified technician program at NRVTA just shows how interested I was in that and how it really got my attention. I I had a really hard time in high school. And for me, I knew that I always wanted to do something that was not just, something outside of the restaurant business. And I got lucky. I feel really blessed. I discovered this, and I finally found something that I'm really interested in that doesn't involve food. So,
do you do a lot of hands-on work there?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do. So like the classes, there's two parts to all the classes. There's a theory and there's a practical. The theory can be a little bit boring, but once you go through that and go on to the practical part of the training, it becomes a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, right. And you'll be surprised how easy it is to learn how to do these things if you have a little interest in it. If there's a little interest, you will figure it out. And it's been very surprising of how fast I've been able to learn everything.
Can I ask? Yeah. Can I ask what this change, what moving to this direction, doing your certification and just diving in because there is a need and you tapped into it. What has this meant for you and for your wife as a family together? Because this is a big change from doing your restaurateur stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my wife, she's really happy about this. In the beginning, when I told her that, hey, look, I'm interested in getting into the RV business, she was a little skeptical. She's known me as a chef. We met at my restaurant. That's how we started dating. She was actually one of our regulars at the restaurant. So that's how she knows me. So when I told her, hey, I want to become essentially a mechanic, she thought I was crazy, and she
thought or confirmed.
I'm sorry.
Thought or confirmed.
It was. I think it's confirmed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I mean, she was worried that this was going to be one of those things that I was just going to get into for a little bit and get tired of it and walk away from it. I mean, right. And because she just didn't know. But I think about like right after when I got back from school, I kid you not, within like the first couple weeks, I was getting calls. Mm-hmm. Not every day, but I was getting calls. So what I actually did right after I finished the training at the NRVTA, I sold my food truck because I knew after the training, I knew I wanted to pursue this. I just loved it.
You just sold it and said, I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, and at that point, I kid you not, I was so exhausted. I was so tired working all the time. And I had just bought the camper at that moment. So like every chance I had, if I had a couple of days off, my wife and I would go camping. So the more we camped, the more I knew that I really wanted to pursue this. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go sell the food truck. I sold the food truck and I put all the money into the RV business.
Did that scare your wife?
A little bit, but what I did just to kind of give her a peace of mind, because I don't want her to think that I was completely taking this huge chance of doing this business without having some sort of a backup plan just in case I didn't get enough business right away so we can pay the bills. I actually went and got a job at General RV in right outside of Richmond as a technician, just to kind of get that hands-on experience right after school. So and that was
and you're still at this time. And you're still at this time running the restaurant?
Yes, I'm running the restaurant in the evenings, and in the daytime, I'm going to General RV from like 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would drive about an hour at 4 o'clock from General RV to the restaurant. I work there every night. So, I mean, I did that in the beginning for a little while. And
Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes, big time.
Are you caffeinated?
Oh yeah, no, I gotta have my coffee. Without my coffee, I will slow down if I don't have my coffee in the morning when I wake up. So no, I gotta have my coffee. But yeah, after working for General RV, the money wasn't really all that working there because I was a new technician. I was still going through some of their training and stuff like that. But then. After about 2-3 months working there, I started getting calls because I had created a Google listing And I was doing some Google ads and stuff like that, just so I can pick up some jobs here and there on the weekends and the evenings when I had time. And all of a sudden, the phone calls went from a couple of phone calls a week to 10, 15, 16 phone calls a week. And then I got to a point where, as I'm done with General RV. So I put in my 2 weeks notice, and right away I started working. I was doing a lot of inspections and de-winterizations and stuff like that in the beginning, but as more people left the reviews on our Google listing, and I started getting a little more exposure, I started taking on more jobs. I got more comfortable, and now I'm taking on jobs every day, whether I'm traveling, whether I'm at home. It's been great. And I was very nervous in the beginning. I was worried about like messing things up and screwing up a job.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was only taking on things that I was comfortable with, that I felt confident in, that I knew that I could handle. And that really just kind of just one step at a time. I got more comfortable with everything else. So now I'm working full capacity.
So if you're traveling, are you taking on jobs when you go other places, or do you just? So how do you do that? How do you? How do you do
I wrapped my truck. I spend quite a bit of money on wrapping the truck with our business logo, so it's it really stands out. I mean, it's like you can spot it from a mile away. And also when we travel, if we go to a campground, when we check in, I go to the campground office and let them know, hey, I'm here for a few days. Here's my business cards. If anybody needs anything, let me know. And typically that works out for us. And
wow.
And as part of growing, I started taking on some business in Florida as well. Last year, I'm talking to a couple of technicians. I'm trying to turn this into a franchise, essentially.
Wow.
So we launched a branch of the business in Florida, or in St. Petersburg, and we launched that in December, and now we're pretty much working at full capacity over there. I'm going down there every 2-3 weeks. I'm there for 2 weeks, and I come back up here. I'm working up in DC for about 2 weeks. The goal is to have 2 or 3 branches working at full capacity, and once they're working at full capacity, I'm going to start selling them as a franchise.
Sebastian, I have absolutely no doubt that you're going to be successful in that, because I just feel like you've been successful in everything else. I don't know. Like I totally hear I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to do it, and here it goes. And
thank you.
Also,
I appreciate that.
I want to know, so you say you fix campers when you're traveling and on vacation. Do you feel like that takes away from like your vacation? Because you just said you don't want to, work super hard and all the time, but it seems like that's exactly what you're doing. So is that hard for you or your wife when you go on vacation, but you're still working? Do you feel pulled, or do you like it?
You're talking to somebody who is used to working 17, 18 hours a day for 22 years, sometimes working 90 to 100 hours a week. So for me, if going from that type of work to just working like 6-7 hours a day, which I usually work about 5 to 6 hours a day when I'm home, and then when I'm traveling, I pick up a job here and there. It's not something like right now we're in Maine. Somebody called me, they had a leak. I told them I'll probably can get to them later on this afternoon. So if I do pick up a job, it's usually just 1 or 2 jobs, just enough so we can have some money coming in. So essentially make the trip be self-paid. Sure. But no, it's I don't work like crazy when we're traveling. I'm just a few jobs. So like if we're traveling somewhere for a week, I'll pick up 1 or 2 jobs just to kind of help out with money and stuff like that. So, but no, it's even if I'm working full time doing this, it's not gonna come. It doesn't get close anywhere to the amount of hours that I worked in the food business.
I've always heard restaurant business is just bonkers.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It really is. It really is. And if you're passionate about cooking, because I'm a chef. I'm very passionate about it. I love cooking. Okay, so if not just cooking, if you're passionate about something and if you love it, you really enjoy it. It no longer becomes work anymore. And honestly,
so does this mean does this mean that at some point, whether it be a year or two down the road, it's not just going to be American Dream RV's inspection and repair, but we're going to have the American Dream RV's cookbook?
Ooh, yeah.
Actually, that is a thought that my wife and I have been thinking about. And in fact, on my YouTube channel, I have a YouTube channel that specifically focuses on cooking, camping recipes. It's called The Nomadic Chef, and I'll definitely we'll give you the link so you guys can post it in your show notes if you want. But I do want to do that. My wife and I have been talking about possibly working out some things where we can come out with a cookbook, like a camping cookbook with pictures and instructions on how to make simple but good recipes around your campfire. So that is part of my plans. Nice. I want to accomplish that at some point. But even now, I have some videos on our YouTube channels where people can go and get some ideas on how to cook some really good food at your campfire. So.
Well, it is inspiring that you can go from being a chef to being a technician. And if you can do that, maybe I can go from being an RV person to somebody who can actually cook at a campfire.
Oh, I thought you were going to say professional pickleball player.
No. I have given that one up. It was a dream. I'm over it. No, I'm a terrible cook. So, I think it would be, I can't wait.
That's not true, Mom.
Yeah.
Your grilled cheese are bomb.
Yeah. So I would love to have simple but really good food because I love really good food. I just don't want to cook.
So you don't want to, or you don't know how?
Probably both. But I would try something if you could show me how to do it at a campfire when I'm relaxed, not after a 10-hour day.
When I was starting out, when I moved to New York, as I was mentioning earlier, that I went and lived in New York for a while, worked as a cook for the Italian restaurant. The first night I got hired, the owner of the restaurant, with no training, told me, "Look, Sebastian, I'm going to throw you in the fire. No training. You're going to have to figure things out." And I kid you not. I mean, that's one of those life lessons that I learned very early on. And that is, you will not learn anything in life unless you throw yourself in the fire, unless you force yourself to actually do whatever you're trying to do or you're trying to learn. You're not gonna learn unless you actually attempt of trying to learn how to whatever you're trying to accomplish. You got to throw yourself at it, and so you can figure out. And when I got hired at Maria Pia in New York, I'm telling you, I had no experience. That first night, they threw me in the kitchen. I didn't know anything about the menu. I had no idea how to cook some of this stuff, but I wanted to, keep the job. I wanted a job to be able to pay my bills. So when I figured it out, that first night I was behind that expo line, I figured it out on how to cook some of these dishes. My point is that if there's something you want to do, don't say to yourself that you can't do it. I say go for it. Mm-hmm. So that's my mentality. That's my motto. Not just with cooking and RV stuff, with anything in life. I'm not the type of person you can say no to. I don't take no.
Well, I think me and you, Sebastian, are a lot of alike in our ADHD and just like general bonkersness without being offensive. Yes. We're a lot alike, and I feel like anything that was worth doing growing up or even now, it's always scary at first because it is like it's hard to focus and it's hard to nail down what you actually want. So everything is, you have to jump with both feet or not at all, because dipping your toe in doesn't really work especially for people like us, because then it's like No, I don't know. But if you jump in, then you're wet. You gotta sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. No, you are forced to learn.
Yeah.
You will never get anywhere in life unless if you don't challenge yourself. And I learned that thankfully, because of my dad and people that are around me, and I have a really good support system, friends and everything. That when every time I wanted to do something, I've had that support from my wife, from my parents, my siblings. And if you don't throw yourself in the fire, you will never pick up anything new. You will never learn anything. Fear is always gonna be the blocking wall in front of you, the chicken you will not be able to overcome. Yeah, absolutely. If there's something you want to do, throw yourself in it, do it. Don't wait.
That's something that we see here when people come in to look at RVs. They come in, they're looking to buy, but they're scared to make the decision because they don't know everything about it. And that is very common here. They're like, yeah, but, I don't really know. I haven't towed anything. I don't know how to dump it. I don't know how to operate it. So, let me try to learn a little bit more. Well, we have to just push them to say, no, just do it. Once you get out there, you'll figure it out. There's nothing that is extremely difficult. We are not teaching them, advanced calculus here. So it feels overwhelming. And I totally get that.
Yeah, it feels like in this life, in all of humanity right now, at least my circles, there's a fear of being a beginner.
Oh, it's a good description.
To the point of never becoming anything.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You make a mistake?
Oh, no.
And guess what? You just learned a way how to not to do something.
You just learned something, didn't you?
Yeah, you become a professional non-starter.
It's and fortunately I've had some really good examples in my life that have showed me that you can't let fear govern your life. You just can't. You gotta throw yourself at everything that comes at you. And even if you don't succeed, you will learn what doesn't work, and then you can go back and try again. And that has really worked for me really, really well, especially when I applied that mentality to the RV business. Again, I came from a kitchen, didn't know anything about. If I tell you, you're not gonna believe this. I had no idea what a multimeter was when I went to NRVTA. Mm-hmm. I remember the first day in class and the RV fundamentals. I don't know. You guys probably know who Brenda is. Brenda, she's one of the NRVTA. She goes by Queen Bee. Has a huge following on YouTube. She's a really good friend of mine as well. And she was one of the instructors for the class that day. And I remember Todd, the school,
Todd,
the master instructor. Yeah, Todd was telling the students, "Hey guys, you got to grab the leads for your multimeter, and you got to put those leads on these terminals." And I am looking at the multimeter and I'm thinking, okay, what the heck is a lead? I don't know what that is. What is a ohm? And she walked over to me and showed me how to actually properly use a multimeter.
Love it.
And
I'm taking that class.
And this is just a little bit over a year ago. Just a little bit over a year ago.
And now you have 2 branches of RV repair going.
Correct.
Man, yes. That is crazy. That's crazy.
And and American Dream RV Service and Inspections is the name. We have a branch in St. Petersburg right now as we speak, St. Petersburg, Florida. Our goal is to expand into the Florida Gulf Coast. Also, we're outside of Washington, D.C. We pretty much service the entire Washington, D.C. metro area, which also includes Maryland suburbs. And my goal is to do another branch north of DC, possibly Philly, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. And the goal is to have 3 or 4 branches that are working at full capacity. And then once we reach that place, we are going to start selling franchise. That's the goal. And
Well, we
We're
have no
here
doubt
for
you're going
it.
to be there.
Yeah, we're here for it.
And you're
excited.
still learning
Thank
things.
you.
are still
I
learning
appreciate it.
things,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure. I think the overall theme of this podcast needs to be brave, be curious, and just go for it.
I have one more question before we end this, if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
Sebastian, did you eat a lot of donuts growing up?
Yes, I did. Like,
Okay, because
my dad would have boxes, and my dad used to. When my dad was delivering donuts, I was probably about 6th or 7th grade. On the weekends, I would actually go with him and do those deliveries. And I would take my Walkman, my headphones, listen to my music, and my dad would give me a box of donuts every couple of hours. I mean, I'm telling you, I think part of my ADD that I have right now is from all the sugar that I consumed during that
Donut
time of my dad
overload.
delivering
well,
donuts.
when you talked about your dad delivering donuts at the beginning of this podcast, we were being very serious, and I just really wanted to ask you how many donuts you ate.
No,
That's my
I still eat a lot
ADHD
of
kicking
donuts.
in. All right.
Do we have donuts here?
We should.
Oh, why don't we
can.
have donuts? It's Friday. I want donuts.
Sebastian, this has been everything and more than I was kind of hoping for. Just a good time of chatting and getting your story and maybe teasing out some of what happened. I mean, there's some encouragement here. There's hope. There's go after it. So
I'm inspired.
thank you for making yourself available, even though you're a whole time zone away.
And in Acadia.
Well, no, thank you for having me be part of today's show. I like I said, you guys were honestly, when I started camping, when I bought that first RV, didn't know anything. I was having tons of anxiety attacks on how to properly use these rigs.
Mm-hmm.
Your show was really what helped me a lot. Like it really, really, really helped. So thank you, and I'm so honored and so happy that I was a part of today's segment. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well,
we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, we'll definitely tag you. It'll take me probably a week to release this, but I'll tag you, send you links and what have you. How about we let you go enjoy Acadia?
Thank you so much, guys. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon. Again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.
You too. Bye, Sebastian.
Sebastian.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was Sebastian, and he what a storyline there.
I'm not going to lie. I was kind of nervous because a lot of times we don't get to really connect when they're not in the room with us. And on top of that, we didn't even have video. And at the beginning of this call, I was like, oh, this is going to be tough. But I have to say, that was one of my favorite podcasts we've ever done. Like, he's so cool.
Awesome. You know what? Let's go ahead and close this one out. Everyone, you can follow us at RV Small Talk Podcast on social or on YouTube, and you can check out show notes for this and all other episodes at rvsmalltalk.com. We'll have links to just things related to Sebastian, restaurants and the where he got trained and certified, his current business, maybe even the KOA he's staying at. I don't know. We'll put links in there.
Just send them all to Sebastian. He would love that.
So thank you again for joining us. We again, the team from RV Small Talk Podcast here at Princess Craft RV down in Texas, and we will see you next time.
Peace.